Welcome back, everybody. I hope you made your essential bathroom breaks, got your snacks, got your drinks. We're moving into match number 4. It's going to be Outlast taking on ATK. There's some familiarity here. Let's start with the side of Outlast, Cookies.
Before I do, can I just comment? What is with the ATK DEF today? Everybody's ATK'd anyway.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's talk about Outlast because there's
Overused.
there's no ATK. Yeah, no, like everybody's in this clan, right? Like everybody's in the like. It's like when everybody tagged up with FaZe on Call of Duty. Everyone has it. Anyway, Outlast.
You got the I will never lose tag.
I know, like, come on. How big is it's everyone gets let into this? Anyway, Outlast. Let's talk about it. We just saw what Heist looked like. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Outlast comes in here.
Just gonna leave it. Just gonna leave it.
Outlast is they are formed from the embers of what happened with the Heist. They went right through the quals. They picked up JWL, or excuse me, they didn't pick up. He was already there. They still had JWL, Atheno, blank as Nomad from last year. They add Trot and Woos, which is the funniest name ever. I love that name, Woos. And you know what? Those two are actually, Connor, the last segment you were talking about how those guys from the Heist are going to be like Bolton Rampy. I would say Trot and Woos are more likely to actually blow our minds. Those guys looked incredible. Relegations in the quals. And hey, they're going to have to stay incredible going into the actual season.
Well, going from one team that we've seen before, we're going into a brand new team. Connor, tell us about ATK.
ATK are aggressive. They love to attack, and they might attack you even if they're on the defensive side. They're just going to be full court pressing. It's Eddie, Ferda returning from the old honor days, as well as Kixro, who is now going by Julian, Silent, and Splash, the new member coming in. Overall, this team has a lot of potential. They have a lot of mechanical skill, and they are a terrifying team to play against. And if you get caught off guard, you are not going to have a fun time at all.
Now, for Outlast, Cookies, is this a team that, similar to what we just saw from Karn & Co., should they capitalize on the fact that there's some familiarity there and hopefully get some early season points?
Right, so that's kind of what their recipe was, at least from what we saw from the relegations. Keep in mind, most of the calls wasn't streamed, but what we saw that was streamed, I mean, it was still business as usual for most of the core 3 from last year. Those guys are still solid. Mm-hmm. It's just Trot and Woos are like they're kind of crazy with it. They're kind of, I got Trot flying out of windows, running out on people on cafe, doing crazy. It's just like, they're for real, and they drop numbers together. I mean, talking 15 to 20 kills together each. I don't know. That sounds like a recipe for Revenge Tour for me. Sounds like they got better despite what happened, which is insane.
Yeah, and especially because this is a team in Challenger League play, whether it be Quals and Rels, that has not dropped a map yet. Not a single map in the gauntlet of Quals, and 2-0ing with ease Okami. Or I think they were going with a Hashiras.
Whatever they were called.
Yeah, they were going by Hashiras, but in Rels, and they looked pretty dang good while doing it.
Now, if you're ATK, what do you do when the ATK is brought to you?
Well, first off, you need to see if this team has taken some steps forward, because this was the old two-faced roster with Butters at the helm, and as we know, it was vibes over strats, and it worked a couple of times, caught Parabellum off guard, but then they really fell off the cliff. And hopefully, with the inclusion of some of their support staff members, like getting to talk with Guayfear, who's coming in from MXPL, he believes that this team has a lot of potential. And as we know, with their mechanical skill, that's not really a question mark at all.
Yeah, well, definitely.
I gotta say this. Vibes, obviously important. But strats, come on. You're in CL now. We need the strats. But I want to move this along because I want to find out the map. Cookies, I'm praying, fingers crossed, we can get something different. This is Challenger League. We don't have to do Clubhouse. We don't have to do Oregon.
Yeah, so one of the big problems with the old ATK, old 2F, the old whatever, they just, truth of the matter is they were honest. When I asked them about it, they didn't scream, they didn't practice. Nowadays, it's a different vibe. The team's actually going to take things a little seriously. Hopefully that means that they're going to have a better map pool. We're going to see a map pool. You're going to see Villa going away for HQ first, though. Cafe as well. Again, Connor, we talked about how Outlast, other stuff wasn't streamed. So we actually don't know, outside of the cafe that we witnessed them, the cafe in Villa actually, where we witnessed them baptize that Expo Tommy roster. they actually don't know too much about their pool with these new players, and that definitely plays in their favor.
Yeah, and that really forces ATK to have to ban those 2 maps, which I'm sure that they're pretty comfortable on as well. But I mean, as we see the final 2 maps, Chalet and Oregon, we get Oregon.
Okay.
Yay! We get a map we've already seen today.
Well, I mean, we can always hope that people have tuned in for their teams that, they want to see now. They didn't see the earlier matchup. But Oregon, Cookies, if we do have to go back there, what can we expect now? Can we expect a similar matchup? Do you think we're going to go 15 rounds on this one? Or do you think one of these 2 teams is going to push the other one to the brink a little sooner than that?
Well, if you remember what I talked about last year, I would say you'd have to have really good memory to remember that. But I mean,
I don't remember a single thing you said last year. I'll be honest.
Last year I said Outlast. They were towards the top of our power rankings in Challenger League.
They got number 1.
Let me tell you a fun stat about that old Outlast team, which, by the way, they've gotten better now in my opinion. They were 6-0 against playoff teams. They were winless against everyone else. It was the lesser teams that Outlast couldn't beat. But during this whole year last year, they were beating playoff teams. And now that they've gotten a little bit better, I don't know. I actually like their odds and I like their chances. A lot of these maps, especially with this element of surprise they have.
And ATK, obviously, Connor, they have some good pieces there. Does Oregon bode well for them? Let's get the predictions up as well soon.
Yeah, for the predictions, I'm all in on ATK.
We've got a split here.
Through.
We've finally got a split here.
Yeah, finally. But
yeah,
I think me and CJ are on the right path. Yesterday, I got to talk with Eddie as well, and he told me, just trust the process. We are a reformed team. You're going to like what you see, because I've been vocal that I was not a fan of Two-Faced. I was not a fan of their playstyle. I wasn't a fan of the vibes over strats, but now you have a team that's all hungry. I'm really excited to see Ferda come back in. I missed watching him from all of Stage 3, where he was in his retirement slump, and then just like any other Siege player, he's going to come back and hopefully do amazing.
Okay, now, I'll be honest, this was another one of those moments where I kind of stole some notes and I went with ATK, but Cookies... I don't know, through this whole process, you've got me kind of sold on Outlast, and yet I'm like, well, I stole my notes off of you, and now I don't know what to do.
I mean, I kind of didn't know what to do when I was predicting. I like both these teams. I like that ATK is going in an actual direction as a team, and that they're comfortable with who they have on their team now and in its entirety, and everyone's going in the same direction, but it's really the same thing with Outlast, and it's just one of those things. You kind of throw a dart at the wall, right? And you hope you're picking the right team when you go with your prediction. But I have reason to believe both teams will play well. You asked me the question earlier, is it going to go all the way? I think so. I think Outlast actually plays them close. A lot of people think, well, Outlast stinks. They have that like thing in their head, but I don't know. Outlast is just a weird team. They do good against whatever, and they do bad against whatever. It's just like, I don't know. But I think it's going to be a good game.
Now, Connor, so leading off of that, a little bit of a prediction here. Assuming we go all the way, do you think this is one where we've gone all the way similar to the last one where it was kind of teams stepping on their own toes? Or do you think it's going to be because these two teams are going to show up and do their absolute best against each other?
I think this is going to be one of those games that it's back and forth in the way that there are going to be multiple players stepping up. There's going to be a lot of 3Ks and 4Ks going on, a lot of quote-unquote hero plays. And the capability of both these rosters to put up those sort of rounds is what's going to keep it interesting. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited for it as well. Cookies, if let's because I want to hear a bit more about Outlast. If the Outlast is able to take it, what gives them the edge? I know you voted for ATK, so did I, but if this is Outlast's map, why is it for them?
Being able to actually match the energy, I like to call it the Black Air Force One activity that ATK loved to do previously when they beat Parabellum on Oregon. Most of this core roster from ATK, they were playing crazy. They're in rat corners doing this and that. A lot of that was Butters, but I'm sure the guys on the new ATK can do it too. The thing is, Outlast Tron moves, like I said, they're flying out of windows. They're confident. They're swinging around doing whatever. And that's something the old Outlast, that was probably the one thing they were missing was firepower. They had teamwork. They had coordination, even if it was weird to play against in some people's eyes. They just didn't have the firepower to really back it up and, I guess, secure those games against lesser teams. And I think they have that now. So that's going to be their key to victory. It's going to be those two new rookies. Hopefully they don't have a moment like Twist had earlier. By the way, Twist used to be on Outlast. We iced over that one. But Hopefully they don't have that moment where, you know, they're welcome to that league, welcome to the league moment, right? Where they kind of struggle in their first game. But otherwise, I think that's what Outlast needs to win this one.
Well, as much as we love chatting about the game, I know that Crow and Jonah love it just as much. So we're going to throw it to those gentlemen right now. Take it away.
So, Outlast versus ATK. Outlast now have to prove that they deserve to keep that original CL spot over the Heist by taking one over ATK. Now, I have been turned into a Tra and Woo's believer, and I'm looking forward to seeing them step up in this match.
Yeah, I think we've got a good one on our hands, because on the one hand, with Outlast, we've got a team that just worked their way through the quals, that is here to prove themselves, that isn't super confident, that knows they have a tough road ahead of them, but is eager for the grind. On the other hand, we've got an ATK team who has been here before in a very different way. As our analyst has mentioned, this is a team that has always been a little bit lackadaisical with how they've prepped and what kind of mindset they've brought to the game. But we've heard this year that they are going hard in the paint. They're scrimming, they're dry running, they are grinding. It doesn't mean they're going strat heavy. I've still heard they're going more of a vibe. Strats aren't everything. Structure isn't everything. We're going to do whatever it takes to win. That still is the mindset, but there is a lot more of a focus than there was previously. And I think we've got two teams who really want this, and it should be fantastic to watch. I don't love that we're going to Oregon. I don't think any of us love that. But these two teams should, I mean, this should be a good proving ground for both of them. It's not like they're going to a skyscraper and one team is going to run away with it simply because of the map. We've got a good chance to see how these two teams stack up against each other head on a map that is probably fair to both of them.
I also like the operator bands, right? They're different than what we've seen previously. You know, Flores and Cade are banned. That means Hibana is up. There's no Hatch now. So hopefully we'll see, you know, maybe a faster paced Oregon. Who knows? Also, before we fully get into this game, we do have an update because unfortunately we do have off-stream games here this Challenger League season. Every day there's going to be 2 to 3 games off-stream. We have the result from one. It was LSR versus Nocturnes on Bank. LSR were able to win 7-5. If you don't know who LSR is, they were the ones once known as Dallas Vendetta. They were known as Investigation File. Now they're LSR, and they're able to take their first win over Nocturnes, who we will see play next as well. But we'll see how Outlast end up defending this site. They don't have they have a couple bodies upstairs. There's not much utility, I don't think, dedicated to this roam. It's mainly like maybe the castle barricades, the Jaeger, and the Vigil just kind of roaming around with rotates. Hatches open as well. So we'll see if ATK can bring that firepower and clear this roam without letting too many bodies slip past.
Well, still trying to hold this first floor and this top floor for as long as they can. ATK just beginning to open things up, getting a chance to see what kind of setup they're dealing with, and, well, already dealing with some of these castle barricades and opening stuff up. The castle itself, Blank, is going to be positioned in meeting, has some support from Woos over in kitchen, and now that the Vigil of Tra has rotated down, you've also got his support over on the freezer side. But if this pressure comes in from stage, then the castle's got to be careful. Blank just takes the fight and wins it. Even though there's a drone on his position, Blank is able to make something happen. Now has to worry about the Candelas from Eddie Shore, but an opening pick for the castle with a UMP, not an easy fight to win. He is sitting pretty. Unfortunately, now he's been flashed out, forced to go prone, but where's this kill coming from? Eddie's been down from where? The smoke coming in from Jewel to clean him up. Woos takes care of Splash, and I have no idea how Blank survives that.
The attacker's bomb diffuser has been dropped.
Okay. Weird clear from ATK, obviously starved of info, or actually not even starved of info. Communication errors all around, right? Because they droned Blank out. They knew he was behind the sandbags. Just prone, chilling, silent. Splash was literally in split. He was past split. He was in meeting and never peeked to kill that guy. I don't know what the hell was going on. Maybe Splash never got the call. Maybe it got mixed up in the chaos. Either way, Splash even trades with Woos. You lost your Iana first, your Ying next, and you are sorely in the man disadvantage if you're ATK. Now Outlast have all defaulted back to the site. They've got a Maestro playing in Freezer. These last two attackers are very separated. Ferda's going to try and nade through, but Atheno evades that frag grenade for now. As he pushes on down, he might have to fight against Blank, but Blank evades the shots from the LMG and outduels him with the ump. Tron next, the Vigil in Pillar, gets the last one, and that is not the start that you want from ATK.
Well, that is a beautiful start if you're Outlast. I mean, that was very nice. I love that extension. The way they were able to hold meeting and somehow prevail in what looked like it was going to be a textbook clear. You even had the Candelas to assist that clear. Blank goes prone. And at this point, his life is in his teammates' hands. He's simply relying on Wooz, and he's relying on, I think it was Jewel, using the E-Box hatch to assist from below. Not only getting a nice down with an SMG-11, but finishing it off with that smoke. Textbook stuff from there in terms of providing that support and making sure that Blank survived a little bit longer. Even if Blank had died at that point, you had decimated the attack, denied the clear entirely, and you were sitting really pretty if you're the defensive side. Great start from them, a dominant start, and that is a good statement to make right off the bat that they're not going to win rounds by running out windows. They played that one utility focused, extension focused, and they played that really calmly. Even when things were going crazy, even when there were Candelas in the mix, they stayed composed and they got the job done. ATK, now they really know what they're dealing with, and I think they're probably going to be a little bit more careful before they clear next time.
I mean, Outlast have always been a relatively calm team, right? I mean, even out of the game, they've never really been, overconfident. They've always been pretty humble, and that extends to their in-game experience. There's not a lot of opportunities not a lot of times that we see Outlast lose rounds because of like over-peaking or over-aggression. Now, that might change with Tra and Woos, because I know they're very aggressive players. Shout out to them for also each getting a kill in that first round, but I feel like Outlast have probably trained those two players better and to get greedy. But moving on to round number 2, ATK definitely have to go back to the drawing board for a couple things. Eddie is currently cooking a Candela, perhaps looking to simply send it through the attic window. There's the Gaunt 6, but Tra is down below covering his teammate, and, well, Eddie will die. The rest of those Candelas with him before Tra is refreshed.
Yeah, you get the trade. Splash this time is able to actually push in split and identify where that defender is positioned instead of missing him entirely. So he'll able to get that trade and return things back to even, but Splash is now potentially in danger if Jewel decides to step up, or honestly just decides to sit back and wait for Splash to rotate around. Splash right now is concerned about the other side of the map, at least it appeared until a moment ago. He'll turn that drone around and send it towards lobby, so maybe Jewel will be spotted out before he's able to do any further damage, but it doesn't look like it, as Splash is still droning out this first floor. Ferda has made the entry, and it looks like Silent will be joining him in just a moment. A couple of drones at their feet, and with the 4 nades, plus the 5th nade that Splash has in pocket, we could see a fair bit of this destruction from below, and, well, the Jewel play that I talked about looks like he does get spotted and taken care of.
So like you said, plenty of nades, plenty of opportunities for ATK to get some more freebies. Nade could have Woo's name on it, but the Jaeger will very quickly fall back wisely as well. Good timing from him. Blank, of course, has Thunderbird gadgets as well in case anyone gets tagged up by those nades, so a bit more longevity when it comes to this defense, and ATK have taken a whole lot of time to not do much concerning the site. Sure, they've killed the 2 off-site players, but they've still got a lot to go through in terms of Woo's, Blank, and Atheno, who have gas canisters and C4s in hand. Next gas canister goes out, there's one more with 26 seconds left. You still got Julian outside the big window. He's the one carrying case, but he's up against a 90-degree angle with a shotgun, but the stuns come in. They force Atheno away. That could facilitate the jump, and here he comes. There's no kill from Attic just yet, but finally, Splash hits the deck. Blank will refrag, but he's no longer on the board. It's Wooz alone, but Splash ends up acing to save the round for ATK.
Well, that's a hell of a way to respond for Splash. I mean, that is very nicely done from ATK as a whole. Despite a couple of hang-ups, making a pretty good adaptation in every single case to get all those kills. I mean, first it was Splash who got that refrag onto Tra down below in meeting. Then it was about dealing with Jewel, who was trying to be a little bit sneaky over by Classroom and over by Z. Splash also found that kill. And then it was just about applying pressure from below and transitioning that into an eventual execute. And they did that pretty well. Eventually working his way through Attic, he was able to spot out the player tucked in the back of Kids, who repositioned him there after initially relocating to avoid the nades that came in from below. But Splash is able to find that kill regardless. And then, yeah, there you have it. Woo's hoping to hold that one back and getting a couple of key frags. But again, Splash got them all and ended up taking care of Woo's, who was positioned in games. So we're going 1 for 1. ATK did indeed remedy some of the issues they had last round. And I loved how obvious it was, especially at the beginning. Even if Tra was a bit of a surprise, denying that full run-in aggressive play with the Candelas, they had the refrag and they made sure to adjust every time they saw a strange defensive position that maybe they wouldn't have been prepared for in the previous round.
Yeah, and Splash is now the only member of his squad with kills, despite them having a round because of that ace. So wonderful stuff from Splash. His first season in Challenger League. A lot of people this season making their debut. By the way, Julian is not a new player. If you're unaware of who he is, he was the player known as Kix or Kixro, and he has rebranded to just Julian. He has expressed his desire to be called as such. So, you know, just FYI, in case anyone was confused, sorry for not clearing that up if you were unaware earlier. But, of course, it's meeting. Finka is already up the tower stairs on rear stage. His teammates now rappelling up towards Attic. You'll likely see the Attic breach. Now, whether ATK push through and fully clear the top floor remains to be seen, because there are some teams who opt to simply open this wall and just hang back, denying that hatch. And it seems like with those OSA shields, they are just going to play passive and force Outlast to evacuate the Attic.
Yeah, I'm liking this OSA setup. I mean, we've said that maybe once ever in history with a play we saw on Oregon on that first map, but I'm liking what we've got here. Eddie right now is staffing the shield that is actually facing stage and facing meeting itself, but you've got that shield up above facing Attic, which should pretty much lock down Attic for good. Unless, of course, that shield becomes unoccupied by an attacker, because you can see on the other side of the shield, at which point the defense would know exactly what they're dealing with or not. Blank has a pretty good long angle here, though, from a shield of his own, actually just staring at another shield, the OSA shield over by stage, but nobody pushing in just yet. It's possible that ATK are waiting for Silent to make a bit of a move from behind. Outlast seemed to be aware of his position, though, as Blank is going to keep an eye on that castle barricade, wary that a Gon 6 or a nade might pop that open at a moment's notice. But that Yokai drone will confirm Silent's position, so ATK know that there won't be much of a surprise from there. So I guess they'll decide to take a couple of gunfights. Julian from behind the shield tries to take the first one, but gets fried with the UMP from that very long angle from Blank.
Yeah, Silent, unable to make anything happen from the bank, might hurt this attack if ATK were banking on it. He'll finally open that castle barricade, but Eddie, also going for a solo play, is caught by Woos, and it seems like ATK might be falling back on old habits. Splash does get one refrag onto Jewel. Tra now a little bit lit up, but the time is ticking. 20 seconds remaining for Splash to try and get this plant down, and there's crossfires all over the place being held by Outlast. In they go into kitchen to try and make this plant happen behind the refrigerator in a relatively safe spot, and there's nothing from the defense to deny it. That is until Tra steps up, completely denying the plant. In comes the Iana sprinting into Atheno, and Ferda is left out to dry. Outlast take round number 3 because ATK simply take too long and can't win any of their initial fights.
It's kind of a problem with those OSA shields, is that it really leans into a passive attacking style, right? Every time you put down a shield on the defensive side, if you think about it, that's a position that you sit behind, you wait for your opportunity, and then you strike. On the attacking side, shields, I mean, they do the same thing. You put them in a position, you sit behind them, you wait to make your move, and you get a kill. But at the end of the day, that isn't an ideal attacking strategy because you've got a clock to worry about. You can't just sit behind a shield and waste all that time. And that isn't the reason why they lost the round, but it's certainly a contributing factor and an indicator of the kind of mentality that ATK were approaching that round with. They were hoping that the defenders would swing them a little bit more, hence the shields. They were hoping they'd have more opportunity for gunfights and more opportunity to use those shields to their best advantage. But unfortunately for them, and very smart play from Outlast, that Outlast didn't feel the need to swing into angles they knew were being held. They didn't stress. I mean, this is what you talked about, Harrison, with a very calm demeanor of this team. They showcased it in round 1, and they showcased it again. Meeting was wide open. We saw this avenue for attack at any moment from ATK, but they couldn't quite take it because they hadn't forced Outlast out of position, and they hadn't got those kills they needed.
Yeah, I was surprised that there were no echo drones left or any sort of denial, and it was just up to Tra to step up and end up killing that planter. I would assume just from Greenhall. But like you said, Outlast's composure has been a highlight of this team ever since they've been in Challenger League, and I'm happy to see that despite the new blood of Tra and Woos, despite those two players never really competing at this level, they don't have the shakes. They're not antsy. They are as cool and composed as the rest of their team. And Tra and Woos, I mean, speaking of, right, they were our 2 highlight players to watch, and so far they have been doing incredibly. Outlast, though, they only lead by 1 round. You know, it's a lead, but it's not a very wide one. At any moment, the scoreline could flip on its head, and ATK are going to try and do just that, attacking onto the basement, still bringing this Ying as well that we haven't really seen been too effective just yet.
Yeah, the only time we've really seen Eddie get to use those Candles, we saw it twice. Once in Attic, he was immediately fried. The other time in Meeting, and he was also immediately fried from the hatch. But the big difference here is that we don't see the extension, right? We don't see any Outlast presence in terms of utility, in terms of manpower on that second or even first floors right now. Everyone is sitting back and waiting on the site below, which frees up ATK immeasurably. It now allows them to get this E-box hatch open without worrying of somebody just throwing a smoke grenade or actually peeking that hatch and getting a kill from below, which is what happened last time. There will be Athena who's shooting out a couple of these X-Kairos pellets, and that will allow Woos to hang out over by that bunker door a little bit longer, but ATK, they're not going to waste their time. Candela's in. Eddie is dropped pillar, and he is taking gunfights. Silent gets the first one, but Atheno and Jewel clap back. Tra gets a third, and there we are with ATK decimated. Eddie's been taken down from blank. Splash is the last player standing. Spots 1 and able to clean it up, adding to his 8-kill tally right now, but he's going to have to find 3 more kills. He does not have the diffuser. He does not have an avenue to escape this site, and he is pinned in a crossfire. If he steps up, you got a player in bunker, a player in freezer. That nade's going to get burned. He's got one more that's also going to get burned. He'll swing the angle, knowing that is his last hope, and Jewel will take him down. Beautifully played from Outlast. Gotta question what ATK were thinking when they went for that push, but they are not finding it right now.
They thought that the combined bunker, tower stairs, and E-box hot drop would work out with the assistance of the Ying, but it was not to be. Silent got the opener onto Woos, and from there, it just crumbled. The reposition from Outlast was brilliant. I don't know if you guys saw everything that happened. So the Jaeger, right? Jaeger kind of swings out, dies to the player bunker. Jewel instantly refrags. Tra, who backed off from the original Candelas, comes back. Frags, I think it was Eddie who ended up, or no, Eddie died last. Frags, I don't remember who it was. Whoever dropped behind Eddie, I believe, is who Tra was able to kill. And the positioning from Outlast, again, screaming, calm, cool, and collected. Almost every single position that we saw Outlast get a kill was down to a crossfire. And at the end there, sure, you had Splash hitting the back, and, you know, that's all well and good. He was good for a kill, but he was stuck in sight against a freezer elbow crossfire with diffuser up tower stairs under the watchful eye of one of the defenders. Beautiful play from Outlast, completely denying ATK any semblance of control. And ATK, a team that we have touted for sure. Their strats might not be the strongest, but they have firepower and they have vibes, which leads to coordination and chemistry. And right now, we're not seeing that. We are not seeing really ATK's only saving grace, their ability to shoot. Splash and Silent are the only people with kills in 4 rounds. You cannot be having that.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, Splash with 8, Silent with 2. Nobody else has found the scoreboard, period.
And then everyone on Outlast.
I mean, wild the differential we're seeing right now. Some of these rounds have felt close, but you have to imagine that is because it is just Splash fragging out and taking care of business. He was able to get a couple in that last round as well, but not enough to put them over the edge. So they've got to figure out something. Those vibes, that composure, that coordination, they've got to find it because it has not been here on the attack. And at the very least, at the bare minimum, they need one more round here in order to go into their defensive half comfortably. We're headed up to dorms, and this is the site that Splash was able to get that ace on last time. Looking pretty comfortable while doing so. But we are seeing a little bit of an Outlast adjustment that is likely to make things a little bit more difficult for him. They're not going for that roam, and there is no extension downstairs. No early picks for Splash or anyone on ATK to be able to get, unless that's going to be from a nade or below or something like that. 2 nades already come up with nothing from Silent. Eddie has already used those smokes to burn, and it looks like the first kill will actually come from a window. Instead, guess who? Yes, it's Splash.
Splash on the Nomad, curiously enough. On a 3.0 KD now after fragging the smoke first. And with that smoke death, here comes the XU. Candel is in. Julian planting behind the bunk. Silent a kill onto Tra. Another one for Silent. But here's the Yokai coming in just in time. But is that going to be enough to save the round? Downstairs, Atheno gets air jabbed. Ferda with the easy cleanup. And it's all left to Blank. He can't shoot the planter. It's a 1v5 post plant. And he doesn't stand a chance. ATK, a very quick, flawless round.
Okay, they have dorms. We'll give that to them. They know how to attack this site. They've done it twice, and that one was very nice. A flawless round from them. Really nothing Outlast could do to stand in their way. You kind of knew Outlast had lost the round when Blank was committing to just continuously using those yokai drones despite it being a 2v5 and there being a full minute left on the clock. Realistically, there's nothing you're going to be able to do with those yokais if you can't get some kills back. Eventually, he realized that, hopped off the yokai drone and decided to step up and maybe find the planter and get that kill, but just couldn't find the angle from the middle of the hall and ended up exposing himself while doing so. So a nice attack there from ATK. Did they find other kills? Was it Splash, somebody else other than Splash fragging out? Not really. I mean, Silent got 2 kills, Splash got 1, but Julian and Ferda were finally able to find the scoreboard. So good for them, and maybe we'll see things start to adjust, and maybe we'll start to see them pick things up a bit, but I've got to admit it is a little surprising to see that we're going back to the same site again, given that Outlast have yet to defend this successfully, and they could go to meeting where they seem to have a much easier time.
We've got Osa coming back out again, I guess expecting that meeting play, understandably so. And they don't have that Ying, the operator who just facilitated that whole rush play. So, what becomes of this round for ATK? They're forced to now take, again, that slow, methodical, standard approach. I'm interested to see how they adapt to now having this Osa. We've seen her once or twice on this site. Usually, one of those Osas will go, like, in trophy-ish. I've seen one even placed on, like, in attic or, like, on the kids' window, even, to play the rappel off of. So we'll have to keep our eye on Eddie and see if those shields end up even coming into play at all.
Well, the shield that I believe that is Atheno playing behind. That's at least going to be spotted out by the attackers, and he's able to hit that shot. Nice one. Goodbye, Splash. That is a big blow to ATK. And I mean, yeah, they got the shield, but at what cost? Athena was able to back off and survive a little bit longer, able to hit a nice shot. And yeah, now ATK have to find a way to bring this one back. Still a mute jammer to deal with, and that's going to be Silent's job from below. Dealing with that pretty quickly, and that will enable Julian to get these X-Kairos pellets down and the wall opened up. But that is really the only progress they can speak of. And then given that they're 90 seconds in, they've already lost their big gun right now. They are not sitting pretty by any means. And like you said, Harrison, without the Ying, they're going to have to do this one, well, with their guns and with the nades that they've got left. Ferda is on the Ying, and that could allow them to spring into action and get aggressive at a moment's notice, but they are still wary of pushing in without knowing exactly what they're walking into. They're worried about the players down below, players plural, because both Jewel and Tra are holding those positions.
Atheno getting lit up, but I think able to rotate into attic at the end of the day, so he's got a nice angle with the shotgun playing close. Those players by Master still can't safely get through that breach, and there's under a minute remaining. You got 2 gas canisters from Atheno downstairs. The C4 from Jewel could very much come into play, and the gas canisters are continuing to come out. Now he's got 1 left. ATK right now on the drones, just trying to gather more info. Ferdas, I believe, is downstairs, just scoping out the situation. In comes the Iana clone. Right behind it is Julian, but I don't know if it saw Woos. Julian is just tucked right behind the foosball table and does kill the Jaeger. Sight now slightly opened up. In come all three attackers. Down goes Blank. Atheno, the last one on site, armed with just the shotgun, overexposes himself. Tra able to get one back for his team, but it's still a man advantage for ATK until the plant attempt gets denied from below. And there's Tra. Once again, the floor holes working for the defense beautifully. All it is Silent trying to walk down White, stuck in the barb. What a waste of time. Has to try and pick up Case and stick this plant, but with the time remaining, it is an impossible task. Silent just gets off, forfeits the round, and Outlast take a 4-2 half.
Well, that is very nicely done from those players down below, because that got messy very quickly. I mean, this is a situation we saw on Oregon and the previous iteration of Oregon we had tonight, where those final two defenders were stuck downstairs. And it looked like the round was lost. And in that case, I mean, it was. They decided to push up White stairs, and they both got fried. But in this case, with the vertical play established, with the shotgun in hand, and with ATK not quite processing that fully, planting in an exposed spot, allowing the vertical play to get utilized at the last second, that's how Outlast were able to shine. Of course, hitting a couple of nice shots through the floor holes below is also certainly a nice way to shine, but denying the planter, that was the big blow. That was what threw ATK through a loop, and it said, and they had to decide, oh gosh, what do we do here? I mean, Silent, the only real move he had was to try to take that fight or get that plant down, and he was simply out of time. Good mid-round adjustment there to just hang on to that fourth round from Outlast. Looked like it was about to slip away, but they will come out of the half victorious with that 4-2 defensive split, and now things switch around.
Yeah, huge stuff downstairs. Tremendous work
10 seconds
from those
left.
players. And now, Outlast swap to attack.
5 seconds remaining.
So, we'll see how ATK fare on their DEF.
Nice.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb and defuse
I
it.
took me about 5 minutes to think about that one. Eddie is dropping a donut, unfortunately. Very uncharacteristic of Eddie. He is typically a star player for this team, but hasn't been able to find the scoreboard just yet. He's hopped on the Ella, perhaps with the FO12. I mean, that gun is a monster in the close range, but no, he's just got the Scorpion. And ATK are a bit extended. You know, we talked about the ratty plays on defense that they are known for, and it seems like they're going to be playing not necessarily ratty, but they are extended. You know, both Silent and Splash are upstairs, Ferda on Freezer, but with no action happening towards the small tower side of things, they are going to default back to the site, rejoin their anchors, but I want to keep my eyes on Blank, the Nook, not an operator we often see here on Oregon. We saw Barring play and get an excellent 3K to save the round. Will Blank be able to perform the same heroic feats?
A lot harder to use those nades effectively down below. I mean, this is a site that has almost no soft destruction capabilities whatsoever, especially if you're trying to pressure from up above. That's how we saw Barring be so effective with those nades. It was a Dorm's attack, and he was able to get 2 nade kills just from good intel and from nading good timing from below as well. So I suppose Blank will just have to go through a tried and true, maybe just walk down Freezer strategy and hope to be that surprise ATK just are not prepared for. But for now, Outlast will be applying their attack elsewhere. I mean, you've got Tra over by Bunker. You've got Athena, really the only player inside right now, aside from Blank, creeping on the other side of the building. But considering we've got a minute 10, and the E-Box hatch is only now getting opened up, and Outlast look to be committing here to this bunker push. You see the flood of utility coming in towards Julian. He does have a reinforcement to close off that hole if he feels like it, but Outlast, might be getting a little bit indecisive here, and with a minute left, they've got to choose.
They also didn't clear the elbow shield. All it did was destroy the ADSs. I think they expected to be able to bank the nade off, but it was not close enough. And now they're kind of stuck here outside bunker. They've got to try and take the aggressive fight. They'll light up the smoke, but Eddie still gets the first kill. Instant refrag by Tra, but in the meantime, there's Ferda and Eddie with more. Jewel, the last one left in a 1v4. He's got a peek to his right, but he's got no idea Eddie is there. I talked about him having a donut, but he will instantly answer with a 3K and give it ATK their first successful defense.
loved that we could talk about the composure of Outlast on defense and how patient and structured they really looked. But gosh, I'm concerned after that one attacking round. That was probably the worst attacking round we may have seen tonight, just in the way that they really did nothing. I mean, they really never committed to one position or another. And by the time they did choose to push in, it was disjointed. It was not at all composed. And they all just died, one after another. Very few trades being found. I'm curious why they waited so long to make that decision. They barely entered the building and got hatches open. That seemed like that was an afterthought. They kind of just wanted to send it in through bunker. But because they took so long to actually start that bunker clear, pushing out that elbow player, but by the time they realized that, wait a minute, we can't clear this, or we're not getting the utility applied correctly, it was way too late in the round to go for a full rotate, and we saw them scrambling around trying to figure out what the heck was going on.
That was a wild round. ATK end up on top. Now they'll switch to dorms. Wow, I wrote dorms in my notes instead of laundry for the last round. But now they will be going to dorms. Silent has some people affectionately call this a gunner hole in the barricade. Just a small slit in the bottom that he's looking for a kill with, but no one's exposing themselves just yet. And we got a little bit of a swap for Outlast. They've now brought the Capitao for blank, interestingly enough. Not an operator that we often see on Oregon. He's more of a clubhouse thing, for clearing out key positions like generator, like rafters. I'm curious to see where he uses those asphyxiating bolts and what positions he's going to be flushing out on a site like dorms.
Well, we've got the intel work beginning for Outlast, something that they can hopefully tidy up this round so they aren't caught off guard by any amount of utility or any defensive position. They're not going to get caught off guard by Splash here. They'll drone him out, and he will... Actually, we saw him a moment ago destroy that drone with a impact grenade, and now we're going to see at least an attempt at a utility clear. Jewel flashing himself first before that Flash is able to actually get into Trophy. Burning those with my magnets is going to be essential here, as well as burning those Aruni gates, any of those that lie in wait. No Jaeger here, so no ADSs to worry about per se, just those Wamai pancakes. But really nothing has happened yet in terms of forcing him out of there fully. I think he has backed off now that the shield is gone. He has. And I think that exothermic charge should get detonated now. Yes, it will. So the game's breach is open. 90 seconds in. Slow progress, but progress nonetheless.
And they have not lost a body just yet. That's the most important thing. They've got 3 LMGs to their name as well, with Woos and Tra obviously playing their LMGs, and Blank actually opting for the Saw on Capitao. Some more utility going into the site. They've got to be wary of that attic wall, as I believe it's left soft. So there could be a mean crossfire from Eddie waiting for them if Outlast push the wrong doorway. Attic open from the back as well, but no one from Outlast pushing it. They're happy to just sit outside the breach and outside big window and call it a day. But there's the first asphyxiating bolt. It's going to kind of force Julian out of position. Blank gets the first kill. There's a nice refrag. Make it 2 from Julian. But Atheno in the meantime evens us up, and another down for Julian. Atheno falls as well. 3 people feed the smoke, leaving it all up to Blank in a 1 versus 2. Diffuser has been dropped. It's right next to him so he can pick it up. I don't know if he knows about the position of this Rooney. He'll get the kill. 3 now for Blank to answer the 3 from Julian. Now a 1 versus 1, and Ferda has no C4. Blank could potentially get this plant down. He's going to take the time to reload his LMG. Smart decision, as he's only got the 15 bullets, but he's got to go for this plant right now. He's going to plant right next to the doorway so that if he hears Ferda go up the stairs, he can hop right off. He's going to get off, but there's no time remaining. He forces himself through the doorway, and Ferda cleans up, ensuring the efforts from Julian do not go to waste.
Yeah, good positioning there from Ferda, not just running into kids head on and taking that fight, knowing that there was enough time for him to get off that defuse and actually take that gunfight, dipping around to the hard cover provided by that games wall, provided right behind that foosball table position, making sure to take that gunfight that Blank just was not quite prepared for. So another attack that I'd say has a little bit of concern for Outlast going forward, because they did indeed feed Julian kill after kill after kill. A little bit confusing. At least trying to find that first trade is understandable, but if you can't find the first, Not sure what made him believe he could find the second, especially from the same angle that was just being held with an SMG-11 and a shotgun at point-blank range. Every single player struggled to clear that angle. They knew where he was the whole time. I mean, from the first player, they knew where he was, and they were trying to take that gunfight, but Julian was elusive and proved that he was just better.
Yeah, that was,
Located by attackers.
I'm
10 seconds to
very surprised that not a single soul from Outlast was able to
Attackers have located
get that
the
kill,
bomb.
but
5 seconds
nevertheless, the round is over, and we move on. When we're now at a tie score, what looked like what was going to be a pretty dominant map from Outlast has now slipped through their fingers, and we've got a couple interesting optics. So not only is Mira left up, she will be brought on the meeting kitchen site, interestingly enough, with one Mira window facing into dining that Outlast might force themselves head on to. Not quite sure where the other Mira window is placed. We have the Osa from Blank, like we saw ATK running, but definitely the most off-meta, the oddest pick we have, Doc. At this point in the game, right, everyone used to say Doc and Rook are basically the same operators. The only reason you ever run them is for the ACOG. Well, there's no longer an ACOG. In fact, Doc only gets a 1.5, whereas Rook gets a 2x. So if you're doing it for the zoom, you might as well pick Rook. If you're doing it for heals, you might as well pick Thunderbird. So not quite sure why Splash has this. Maybe just because, you know, it's more readily available to him than the Thunderbird, but you know, we'll have to see if he can make it work.
Yeah, this is something we see every once in a while, and it's always confusing, so always something we like to focus on during the round. Hasn't used any of those stims just yet, and we'll see if he actually ever does get to use those. But already, I mean, Outlast are trying to speed things up. Time hasn't been their number one issue, but it's definitely been a factor as to why they've kind of had these flustered, disjointed executes in these last few rounds. The good thing is, this time, they got that breach open with about, 30 seconds, or rather 90 seconds now left in the round, and they're trying to apply as much of this vertical pressure as possible. Of course, they didn't deal with as much denial on the breach because the site is down below, and because I think Eddie has already dropped away, Outlast should be able to have this top floor control with more than a minute remaining. There is a player, tucked in attic. Ferda just sitting there, not quite able to get the kill though. Tra able to escape with just a sliver of HP, juiced back up instantly by the Finka boost. But oh my, missed opportunity for Ferda. Now Outlast know they should be wary though that there's a player still there, no? Okay, he dropped away.
Yeah. By the way, Tra was playing, it looked like he thought he was getting shot from below the hatch anyway, so luckily for Outlast, Ferda drops, but here's another unseen player. It's Eddie, blindsides Blank. That's a freebie. Atheno can't land the trade. What a play by Eddie to cement the round advantage in his team's favor and even back off further into small tower. That's going to be a lot of time for Outlast if they want to try and clear him out, but I don't know what their plan is now with only 24 seconds left. The time is ticking and Eddie is still up. There is really nothing set up for the attack on this site. I guess Tra is going to try and flank Eddie, but it might be way too late. In fact, Eddie hits the deck and kills him. Julian, another one. Jewel has to drop in, and Eddie finds a fourth. ATK, another flawless round to rip away the lead from Outlast.
This is honestly crazy, because Outlast, they looked like the most composed defensive team of all the teams we've seen tonight on their defensive half. I think that's a fair statement. Composed is my defining factor here. I'm not saying best, I'm just saying they looked disciplined and mostly they looked prepared. That's the key word here, because Outlast have looked mind-bogglingly unprepared on all of their attacks so far. They've now had a chance to attack all three bomb sites that you would normally expect. Basement, unprepared. They did not know where to attack from. They just could not choose. They didn't do their due diligence in order to push through bunker, to push through pillar, and they got stomped before they could really begin. Dorms, maybe they were slightly more prepared, but the execute was still a mess and they fed smoke kills. But another example of just unpreparedness was here in round number 9. They had a rough structure of how they wanted to do it, but they had nothing in mind for when there's somebody in a position that they might not have been expecting. What if someone's sitting in dining? Do we just keep feeding him kills? Sure. What if there's somebody sitting in attic a little bit too long? Well, let's just run away and focus on the site. A lot of decision making there that screams unpreparedness. And I hate to go on a little tangent here, But it's just so surprising to me, given the stark difference that we saw from their defensive half to their attacking half.
And I mean, that's the strength of ATK, remember? Ratting in corners, catching their opponents off guard, because if they're not thorough enough, then those little hidden corners that ATK put themselves in end up biting. For example, in Attic, I mean, Ferda didn't get the kill, but he very well should have. That could have been a freebie on Tra. It ended up not being, but then Eddie, prone next to the couch in dining, completely unseen, pops up out of nowhere. Outlast have got to get more thorough with their drones, and ATK have been taking advantage of the fact that once it gets down to that late round, Outlast don't really gather too much info. They just sit themselves in a corner, wait for the push, and punish them. We go back down to Laundry, a site that Outlast got pummeled on from their E-Box drop, and now they have to deal with a Mira.
And that may be a problem, given the issues they've already had. Adding an element to this defense that it requires more coordination and more preparedness to take care of, Outlast are going to have to really figure this one out. Hopefully the timeout was enough to get them back on their feet, get them back playing that Outlast gameplay that we have seen them do in the past, and has gotten them this far, at least gotten them through relegations. But they're going to have to do more than that, because ATK, I think they've realized exactly what Outlast are struggling with, because not only are they bringing out the Mira, but Eddie is going to be playing this roam. He's got some utility. He's got this support. They're going to be playing an extension on this first floor as well. You've got Ferda in security. When Eddie's ready to drop down, he will drop down and position with Ferda in security. There he goes. He'll actually rotate all the way back down to leave Ferda alone up above for now, but still, it's the right idea. It's exactly what you need to do to force Outlast into a troubling spot.
Ooh. Talking about the info game, though, Outlast do have pings on Ferda, but unfortunately, they're not able to capitalize. Ferda will get away, rejoin his team on the site. This is where Outlast struggled. The setup and then execute. And there's Tra, though, to start us off well. Something they were missing was an opening pick. And Eddie was the man in pillar. Perhaps that is now, yeah, it looks like that position is largely vacated with the exception of one on the double door, if I'm not mistaken. There is a mirror window that Ferda can back up on, though, and clearing elbow was already a struggle for Outlast in the previous round.
Blank just gonna send it on in, I think. And looks like Ferda's just gonna reinforce the wall. So elbow has now been secured, essentially, for the defense. You know, the attackers have wasted that utility, yes, but Outlast can now push in and take the control that they need. There will be a mirror window staring at them, though, so they can't get too comfortable, and they still need to try to get this plant off if they can by working their way around towards E-Box. Blank is not able to land a bullet there onto Splash, but he is able to guide his team into dropping down into Pillar, but what awaits them is trouble. I mean, Silent takes care of one, a C4 collects a second, Woo's now very low HP and hoping to find an angle here, but the smokes are going to delay this push even further. Jewel pretty much can't get anything going, tucked there in elbow. Another smoke to slow this down, and these attack with ATK defenders, I mean, they're sitting back and they're waiting. Jewel hits a good shot there and takes care of Ferda, but another smoke will choke out Blank and force him to push straight into Splash's waiting arms. There goes Woo's. Last alive is Jewel. He whips out the bearing 9 only to get suffocated by the toxic smoke, headshotted by Splash, and there's the round. ATK take another. Outlast, despite the timeout, just cannot find it again.
Took way too long on their upstairs clear and their transition, and it punished them on the site play. I mean, ATK conserving those gas canisters was perfect. Waiting till the very last possible moment, I think that was Julian throwing them out, completely constricting the E-Box doorway, forcing Blank in. Questionable stuff from Blank to not check the hard left corner, because that is a very default angle for a defender to be sitting in. I mean, hey, if he kills that player, he could keep the ball rolling and potentially save the round for his team. So that was a little odd. But either way, that was just down to the time. Outlast had none. And now they're going to swap a few operators. No more Zero for Atheno. An operator that Atheno loves for whatever reason. Outlast bring it on literally every single map, but they won't have him here. Instead, they'll opt for the double hard breach. Maybe we'll see them go for the Attic game split this time.
Well, in terms of the defense, I think ATK have found something that works for them, and they're not going to get
10
too...
seconds to go.
They're not going to work it too hard in order to change it up. You do have the alibi
5 seconds left.
coming out from Silent here. But once again, no Jaeger, just focusing on the Wamai and the Aruni gates. Same shield positioned in trophy for Splash to sit behind. So that'll have to be the first priority of Outlast if, like you said, Harrison, they do want to go for that game's push. But if they want to focus more on Attic, focus more maybe on doing a little bit of a pressure from below, up on white stairs or something like that, then they wouldn't have to deal with Splash as much. But by the fact that Woos is already repelling and trying to find Splash here in Armory and force him away back to that shield, it does look like Outlast have settled on a plan at the very least. Splash will back off, doesn't want to get cut off by Woos as the repel into Armory now becomes assisted by a couple of drones. But Outlast, now they know exactly what they have to deal with. They've got to figure out a way to get this utility burned again.
The Wamai in trophy is going to be a little troublesome. He was kind of aggressive on that Master Doorway, but has since backed off. But Woos might just swing him. Splash has no idea. Unless that turnaround is now him holding the doorway. No, he's still playing behind that. Shield fires in, but you don't even need Woos. It's just Tra to take the heads-up engagement and win it out against Splash. In the meantime, the breach has been felled. Outlast are making much better time than they did in the previous round.
They did get the opening pick on the top floor last time, though. So they're not going to feel too comfortable just yet. They do have a lot of these X-Gyros pellets allocated towards Attic. In fact, all of them allocated towards Attic. That's okay, though, because you've got Jewel coming from the other side. Your dual hard breach proving key in a situation like this. And they've got the avenue they need to send it in through Attic. They can begin to push up, and now with this game's breach open, they can begin to establish this crossfire. You do have one defender who's rotated down below. I expect that to be Ferda, as well as you can see, Silent, because that C4 in Ferda's pocket is exactly what they need to deny this eventual push. But the one thing that is that could result is that we only have 2 players on the site right now. And if Outlast realize that, then hopefully they could make an early move, because in a 4v2, you've definitely got an advantage.
And Attic is completely clear. Both these players are over towards the west side of the building. And with Blank now on the double window, Eddie might be in for a rude awakening. In comes the peek. Blank wins the fight. 2-man advantage now for Outlast and leaving the site even more exposed. Julian fights back, though. Tra goes down on the breach. Silent is now top white, so within range to help his teammate. Now in the site itself, replacing where Eddie once was. So if Blank tries to jump in, he'll surely be a dead man, but Julian goes down to Woos. Once again, only one man on the site. Great shot onto Jewel. Whips around, tries to find the sledge, but is unsuccessful. In the meantime, the C4 will land on target. Diffuser now picked up by Atheno, but exposed to the white stairs. Ferda might be able to land the shot. He peeks in, fells Blank. Atheno's got to get off the plant, and he wins the fight. Catches Ferda mid-rotate, and Outlast somehow able to tie the score once again.
Oh god, that's close, but a very good choice there from Atheno to hop off, because that round was lost if he did not. If he stuck that plant, he was a dead man. Yeah, he may have gotten the plant down before 0-0, but he would have had somebody staring right at him, and that is all she wrote. But hopped off just in the nick of time and getting that kill with just, I mean, I don't even know how much time was on that clock, but I know it was barely more than a second,
like
if
a second,
that left for him to get that kill. So squeaking that one out by the slimmest of margins should have been a little bit more dominant given the advantage they initially secured, but they're able to fight their way back and take a round. So good to see, but it is still match point, and ATK have another shot at putting this one away in regulation.
That's my bad. They're not tied up on the score. I had miscounted my notes. So, ATK are still 1 round away from winning it. Outlast, they are fighting tooth and nail for this OT, but we go back to dorms, and I mean, I feel like, again, like you said, with that advantage Outlast had, they should have probably won that round to begin with. Outlast just kind of fell a little bit behind on the trades. They'll be holding in trophy once again, only this time the shield is not coming from an alibi, it'll be coming from a Frost, who is placing 2 Frost mats under big window like that instead of side by side. That's a little odd. No, something that Outlast did do in the previous round that ATK might not be aware of was sending Woos up main really early on. So I do worry a little bit about Splash because Woos wasn't the one to get that kill last time. It was Tra. This time, if the Zoe ends up striking, it could be another opening pick onto the Wamai.
Well, we've got a bit of a change in this defensive setup that may hamper Outlast's desires to get into the building quickly. We do have 2 extended defenders, one of which, slightly extended, is Silent, who was positioned at the bottom of White Stairs at least just a moment ago, and we also had Eddie over by the big tower side. I imagine they're going to rotate back to site relatively quickly once they spot the drones and they spot these attackers starting to make progress on the site, but for now, they might be looking to get a bit aggressive or maybe catch a little bit of a spawn peek or something of that sort. Instead of Splash playing in Trophy, it is going to be Julian playing on this shield and playing on this Trophy door. I think Tra has identified this, though, that the pressure here is not quite as upfront as last time, so already making an entry into Master, getting a little bit more comfortable than they were last time.
Nade goes out, it will clear the jammer, but no damage done to Splash. We might even see the impact trick that we see on the fan, but no, it hits the ground and it misses. The breach forfeited as Tra jumping into Classroom, I believe, eats a ton of damage, so he'll have to back off, maybe heal himself with those Finka boosts later in the round. Splash's position also now spotted out, eating a couple shots from that LMG, still on the Z-ping. Tra is patiently waiting for this Wamai to make his move, but no, he'll end up backing off. Splash, still playing aggressively, is allowed to rotate back thanks to the assist from the gas canister from Julian. So good opportunity to use that gas canister. He really saved his teammate's life there.
Well, now those lives are going to be put in question as Outlast begin this push, but it's them who actually need to worry about what lies in wait below. Eddie, who went completely unnoticed, Blank wasn't even looking the right way, gets cut down and gets completely surprised by Eddie sitting below. I think Outlast know that they're not going to be able to do much about Eddie right now, so they may just turn their attention to this site and just decide to get a move on. There are still a couple of players on the site to slow them down, and there are still these smokes for them to worry about, but they're already going to go for this plant. Eddie still gets another. A C4 pre-placed. Is it going to be blown in time?
Where?
No, it's not. So the bomb is able to go down. Must have gotten shot out or something, because that would have been an odd mistake. But Jewel gets cut down from behind anyway, because Eddie goes unchecked again. Tra gets one, hoping to stall out these defenders as they go for the retake, but Tra on 1 HP and Woo's in an awkward spot. This is not a very winnable situation for Outlast. Tra is finished off, but he gets one right before it. Woo's now downed and finished off. And that is all she wrote. ATK with the defuse and with the 7-5 victory here on Oregon, Outlast just could not attack to save their lives.
Yeah, nice try at the end with Jewel surprisingly getting that plant down, but at the end of the day, like you just mentioned, Outlast had some incredible defenses, but a couple cracks ended up putting down a 4-2 half, and man, Outlast just looked like they didn't know how to attack this map. I mean, it's Oregon. It should be relatively straightforward, but at the end of the day, that was a 5-1 half for ATK on their Oregon defense, and they did a beautiful job of taking advantage of, I guess, Outlast's inability to scrub together a successful execute.
I mean, all of ATK did step it up, right? We were highlighting it was only Splash with kills in the entire first half, it felt like. But then at the end of the day, you had 2 players go get double kills. You had everyone else, finding the scoreboard at least 8 times. And it was a really good adjustment overall to that defensive half for them. So glad to see them find their footing. A little troubling to see such different versions of Outlast just in one map. Just within an hour, we saw so many different things that Outlast did right and also did wrong. So you got to give it up to ATK for making that comeback and for making it look pretty easy on the defensive side. Well played from them, but to break this down a little bit further, we'll toss things back to our analyst desk to give us a real in-depth about what just happened.
I do want to start off here, guys. Cookies, I want to give you as an analyst and Connor as well credit, because I think you got this right. We made the comparison with the other Oregon map where we saw it go down to the wire. We said we thought we were going to see a similar one, but probably a slightly cleaner and with more, multi-kills. We saw 2Ks, 3Ks, 4Ks. We even saw an ace. This actually, for once, Cookies played out kind of the way we thought it would.
Right, it was a lot of hero ball early on. Your ATK. Thanks to Splash. I think the game was starting to get out of hand early on. Outlast looked really strong, probably a lot more competent than ATK was expecting. So Splash getting that ace, as you said, was a momentum changer. It allowed them to kind of settle in, even though, I mean, it still felt like, I say that, felt like they were constantly trying to settle in because they were trying a lot of different combinations of offense. Saw the Osa, we saw that stuff like that, and it just wasn't working out. But they managed to win dorms a bunch of different times, and I think Outlast going back to dorms, I think with the 3-time probably wasn't it. I think the offsite, it's traditionally, I mean, I guess Connor, I want your opinion on this one because it's like you hear that, you know, dorms is like third, second site. What are you thinking about meeting maybe becoming second site instead these days? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that overall you should never really be repeating sites, just continue your rotation. And what Outlast brought to the table on their defensive side for their tertiary bomb site looked good. They still had 3 people up plus 2 yokai drones. They understood exactly what was going on. ATK almost got a plant down, but then you realize, wait, he's on echo drone. They're just gonna ping him and swing him, drop down the diffuser, and then that's the round over without even trying. But you were also talking about with ATK coming out and talking with all of their fun attacking lineups. It was the complete opposite for the side of Outlast. They had a very static lineup. They didn't utilize the attacker 6-pick, and they constantly found themselves at utility disadvantages. You're bringing Thermite on basement when Hibana is up.
The one thing that was quite apparent here, Cookies, was the fact that the entry for Outlast was pretty good, and then it didn't really materialize too many times for them beyond that.
I think Trot definitely showed out. Unfortunately, we was probably had the newbie shakes. Not Trot, not Mr. Traquan, not him. He kind of showed out and he kind of impressed. And it's kind of the same story that I had told with West Garfield Park with Twist and Snake. Gonna be the same story for Outlast. I think you can expect more often than not the duo is gonna show out today. It just didn't, and maybe that was the difference. Maybe that was the last little bit of a push Outlast needed, especially in those rounds where they couldn't quite clear people out of corners. Maybe a little bit of disconnect and a little bit of hesitation there, but I think as the season goes along, Outlast will definitely continue to improve.
Well, from the side of ATK, we do have the interview ready. It's going to be Splash. We didn't have to wait long for someone to get an ace, and it was this man right here, Splash.
Yeah.
Big. I hate to make the pun, but you made quite the splash in round 2 to start off Playday number 1. How are you feeling after that matchup?
I'm feeling good. It feels good to like ace your second round.
Yeah.
In your debut. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you guys had some pretty good team synergy today? Is it exciting getting to the guys playing an official match here?
Yeah. I think we can improve a lot though. Like I don't think it should have been that close, but yeah.
Now, I mean, it wasn't obviously you got the ace, but there were plenty of 3Ks and 4Ks to go around with the team. Is this a team with a lot of frag potential in your eyes?
Yeah, I think we started off really slow. I think like 3 of us were like 0-4, 0-5 at one point, and then ended up everyone going positive. So if we just like get a good start, I think we can beat anyone.
Well, you gave us an exciting matchup, exactly what we expected, a heavy-hitting map of Oregon. Thank you so much, Splash, and hopefully we'll be talking again as the season progresses.
All right, thank you.
Have a good one. Yeah, Connor, wasn't it in stage 3 last year where I think at least halfway along before we saw anyone ace? It was almost getting to the point where we thought it might not even happen. I could be getting my stages wrong, but I think I remember that. And then today, right off the rip, we had Splash just go out. And, you know, as I said to him, Connor, we saw, like, Eddie, did Eddie have 2 4Ks? He at least had 1 4K and a 3K, I believe.
Yeah, at least. I mean, overall, attack, ATK, they looked really good. When they started getting the ball rolling, Outlast came out swinging a little bit more than they expected. And sure, it's also the defensive side of Oregon. You kind of expect to feel a little bit more comfortable on that side. It's a lot easier. But when ATK till my bones decay rhymes, that means it's always going to be true and they're going to go undefeated and win Challenger League, right?
Yeah. I just think it's ironic that they did it on defense more than attack. But we're going to flip to a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We have the final matchup of the day coming afterwards. It's going to be one shot taking on Nocturne, so some familiar faces for everyone. We'll see you in a few minutes.